G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR and welcome to the round 10 review. As you can see, a pretty solid week from me. Always is when you hit the 2400 mark. I'm now pretty well entrenched inside the top 1k, gone up 3 weeks in a row. Season rank now inside the top 700 at 694, so really pleased with that. And as you can probably tell with the thumbnail, I did have the Piggy captain this week. So you are a good man, Clayton Oliver. Thank you very much. A terrific starting pick and now the highest averaging midfielder in the game. So extremely happy with what he produced on the weekend. And look, it was a big call from me because I'd included Max Gawn in my captain VC loophole or combo each week since the beginning of round one, but I thought, nah, this is a week to jump on board the pig. We know what he did last time against Adelaide. George has mentioned on a couple of occasions now that Adelaide just don't have that type of midfielder that can stop some of the bigger bodies such as your Clary, so it was a pretty obvious choice for those that had him this week and wrapped it off, followed through. And look, Sammy Walsh was looking like a pretty good vice-captaincy choice as well at half-time, but fell off a bit of a cliff, so was pretty lucky there when it came to the captaincy because I probably would have taken a 130, 140 type plus score, so saved myself a few points there, but at the same time you still want Walshy to go a little bit better than what he did after his massive first half. But in regards to my trades, I couldn't go through them in the end. I was hell-bent on getting Jared Lyons into my side as well as RCD. Wasn't overly keen on RCD, but I thought he's the best that's probably available. And then the Friday night teams came through and they were thrown absolutely out the window. So I'll talk about my trades as well. But I suppose that's it for the intro. Let's get into it and see what the team's actually looking like. So it was actually the defenders that let me down again this week. As you can see, the top score is a 105 from Jordan Ridley. Look on Ridley, great to see him hit a little bit of form again. Look, we aren't seeing those 120 plus type scores that we did trade him in for at the start of the season before the price rises. But look, if he's going 100 plus at his price for non-owners, absolutely jump on this bloke. I think it's a great bargain. Look, you've lost a bit of that ceiling, but think about the people that either started him or brought him in pretty early. You've got a big leg up on those people already. So I highly advise to trade him in if you do not have him at this stage. But we'll go back a little bit. The Seagull, Jake Lloyd, a 98. Well, he's done this a couple of weeks in a row, hasn't he? We saw Mills put out a really nice score, as well as Jordan Dawson. I think he went, about a 140 plus. So, yeah, the Seagull, we knew that his ceiling's been hurt a little bit from Dawson this year, and we're simply not going to see those high averages that we would have expected starting him this year. But look, at the same time, he's still going to be a really reliable defender. He's not going to give you scores like Shorty's around those sort of mid-70 marks. He's always going to go your 95 plus basically every day of the week, Seagull. So certainly not that ceiling that we wanted, but at the same time, he's still one of the better options that you've got back there. Same as Tommy Stewart, still one of the better options, but you see that average now, 104.6. So Lloyd's actually up on him, where he looked like, 2-3 weeks ago, like he was clearly going to be in the top 3 defenders. Now, I still really rate his consistency. I really think he's been a little bit ripped off as well by champion data in the last sort of 2 to 3 weeks. So, look, I'm an owner. I'm not a worried owner at this stage. I'm still really, really happy with the Tommy Stewart pick. I still think he's got a really good buy as well. Most of us can cope with that round 12 buy, but round 13, 14 looking pretty dicey depending on what your setup is. So still happy with the Stewart pick. I wouldn't worry about him too much. Ridley, I've already mentioned. Jump on him if you don't. As an owner, you just wrap to see him go above the 100. Short, just up and down, up and down. Not a reliable pick. I think I may have even had the safest houses symbol on him early on in the year in the stock market video, so apologies for that. You don't always get these ones right. I just thought he'd be a really consistent averaging type player, going from that 95 to even 110 most weeks. But yeah, really tempering my expectations because he's throwing in a stinker here and there. And for me, 77 is still a little bit of a stinker for what I expected anyway from Jaden Short. Stephen May, is it a failed pick? Still a little bit hard to tell at this stage, but yeah, 72 is the pattern is obvious now with Stephen May. Has a really good first quarter, even second quarter, so he's giving you your 47s to 55s by half time. But then the second half, basically non-existent. So he's a type of bloke we're relying on to get 20 plus disposals. Unfortunately, that's not happening at the moment. His disposal count is down, and that's really disappointing, particularly given the fact that Christian Salem was out on the weekend. I was really wrapped with that, given the fact that I'm a May owner and I thought May will really take all those kick-ins and all the rest, but still wasn't enough to really boost his score to a decent type score. But at 400k at the price point that I brought him in, it's still okay. It's not a disaster, but I wanted a lot more from Stephen May. A little bit disappointed. Hopefully he can bounce back. So Lachie Jones, I didn't even mention my trades, did I? He's a new addition to the side. Basically what happened was on the Friday night, I was banking on Nathan Murphy playing. But unfortunately, it looked like that he was going to be the medical sub. He'll still name as an emergency, and you think he's probably the most logical option. I just thought that he was a shoo-in to come back into the side. But Bucks, unfortunately, ruined that for me, which meant that I was pretty much forced into getting Lachie Jones into the side. And with Highmore there as well, he actually came in, Jones I'm talking about, for Mansell, who I think's a bit of a dead rookie. He's probably not going to be getting any more regular games. He was in there due to injury, I think, but at 102k that I paid for him, that real rookie price, I made about 70k, which isn't ideal, but you jump on this bloke, Lachie Jones, didn't set the world on fire. But what I really loved about this, apart from basically a must trade in order to avoid a donut, was the fact that Kenny Hinkley rushed him straight back into the side. I was sure that he was going to play at least a week in the Sandful just to get his body right, be a little bit rusty, just a young fella. But straight back in to the best 22. So what do you say about that? Well, you probably just got to get him in anyway, I think. So yeah, that worked out okay. Not the best score, but you got to do what you got to do. Highmore didn't play. Hopefully this week, surely he's got to come back in. The Saints have got to make a lot of changes, I think. I think it's even been mentioned by the coach himself. Surely this bloke's got to come in. Was he a medical emergency sub? So surely he gets in the 22 next week. And Murphy, come on, I know that Collingwood played really well. Gallant performance against Port Adelaide. And Port are a little bit off, aren't they, at the moment? But that's another story. Surely this bloke has to come in. I don't know who for. There was a few sore players during the game where I thought, geez, he may come on there, may come on. Taylor Adams, I think, was sore at one stage. Josh Thomas was another one. Not sure if these guys end up, getting worse after the game, if they just got through or not. But hopefully Murphy just comes back in. I need it for my cash gen, and at 159, surely if he plays a couple of weeks in a row, he'll go you 200 plus pretty easily. So, fingers crossed for Nathan Murphy this week. The Pig, what more do you say about this bloke? Look, I had a hunch that he would go bananas, and bananas did he go. The amount of contested pill, his want to hunt that ball down, you just can't speak highly enough of a player. And to have him as your captain, and I won't bang on about it, but it's just phenomenal. It can really, really make or break your season, and this was a really season-defining week, I think. And don't get me wrong, I could find myself outside the top 1k next week. Who knows? But you've got to have those weeks, I think, where you do make a bit of a fair jump. And it is hard to make a good jump when you are around that top 1k mark. But I think I went up about 250 to 300 spots just in 1 week. And when you're at that range, it's really, really pleasing. So little decisions do go a long way when you're sort of getting towards the pointier end, I suppose. Sam Walsh, well, didn't have a brilliant first half, but bug you, Cole Hardigan, behind the play elbow, pretty dirty type stuff. I know Cousins ended up playing pretty closely with him in the second half as well, so things just didn't work out for Walshy, unfortunately, in the second half. But I'll tell you what, and I'll speak a lot more about this in the stock market video, that first half, apart from this Piggy game that we've seen, that first half from Walsh, you'd struggle to see a better first half from anyone this year. And the Pig probably did eclipse him in the same week, but at the time, seeing Walsh, I just thought this guy is just the definition of a gun. He's just a superstar. So talk a little bit more about him. But that 116 was looking like, at that rate, it was a 200 type score, to be honest. But you're probably thinking realistically, and I said this to Spills at the time, mate, even if you can go a 20 and a 20, 40 point second half after he's gone 99 in the first half, and that's still a 140. You really take that. And for him to only end up on a 116, that was a 17-point second half. So extremely disappointing with that. But given the fact he'd worked his butt off in the first half, just things just didn't go his way. As I said, elbow to the head, pretty dirty act, I think. Pretty salty, I think. And I've learnt the word salty as well from a younger fellas as well. So I do know what salty means now. I'm a little bit salty with Kyle Hardigan. I would try to use the younger lingo or vocab in some of the videos now. But yeah, dirty on him. But yeah, still 116. Yeah, you'll take it, I suppose. Zeret, I swear champion data just do not like this bloke. I was following this score really, really closely in the first quarter, and he was running at over 90% efficiency, I think, was kicking the ball. Look, his uncontested possessions certainly did outweigh his contested possessions, but the way that he used it, had a couple of tackles thrown in there as well. I thought surely that's got to be more than, I think it was about a 40-point first quarter. I'm not exactly sure, but just doing the maths and what I thought, and I'm no expert, I know, but just thought that he got a little bit ripped off, and it seemed like that for a lot of the season, I think, but it must be due to that uncontested ball. I think that's the only reason I've got for it, because he was hitting the target. His disposal efficiency was absolutely through the roof. I thought that his disposals did have a fair impact on the game, or a positive impact on the game. So I just don't know why it was a 117 in the end. The scaling wasn't great for that game, though, I know. Titch, look, he's a mixed bag, the old Titch. Just wrapped that he came out with a 142 this week. He went a 70-odd last week, so I've just got no trust in Titch. It literally is like a raffle, pretty much a 50-50. Do you get a really nice score, or does he give you an absolute dud? So I hope he keeps trucking with the good scores, but I've just got no confidence in the pick. A lot of it does rely, I think, particularly with Titch, on that contested to uncontested ratio. We saw last week, I think it was only 3 contested possessions for the game, and then the week before, I think it was 18 plus. So that does have a big impact on his game. Playing a little bit more of an inside role on the weekend, did build up those contested possessions, which was nice. So yeah, 142 from Titch, absolutely wrapped. You wouldn't call him a pod, but he's a relative pod, so that's pretty nice. Rory Laird, this man is in fine form at the moment. So he did have a bit of a similar pattern to Short. Probably didn't go as low as Short, but still had some disappointing type scores in there. But it was sort of going, 1 or 2 good, then a poor. But we've seen probably in the last month the footy, Rory Laird be really consistent. So what's that season average? 107.1. So that's right. That's basically identical to a Tom Mitchell. So that's pretty good from Laird. Things are tracking in the right direction now. Yeah, wrapped with a 123, but again, a really popular type player, I think, to have on your side. Dusty, 86. Yeah, geez, Richmond, got just outclassed, I think, in the end by the Lions. And look, I have heard, and it is obvious that Richmond's midfield is absolutely decimated. Who was at Bolton, Prestia, Cochin. I'm missing a couple of others, Lambert in there as well. I know I'm missing someone else. But at the same time, we are missing the Brownlow medalist. Darcy Gardner, I think, not in a SuperCoach sense, but in an AFL world type sense, is one of the most underrated defenders in the game, in the competition. And Froggy Lester, he's been really important to our structure for a long time. Got Cam Rayner out for the year, which is really unfortunate. So, we do have a few injuries as well. So, I don't know why I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I suppose with Dusty, look, I think if you brought him in this week, it's still okay with what he was priced at. You probably do still bring him in this week, I think, with the options that are available in the forward line. Still 433k. I think that's okay, but yeah, with Dusty, you've just got no confidence that he's going to go above the 100 any week, to be quite honest. You'd hope that he'd be stepping up with the amount of injuries that they've got, but Richmond may not be the team that they have been for the last few years. I'm certainly not one that's going to write them off at this stage, but yeah, things just aren't great with Dusty at the moment, but there are worse picks than him at this stage in your forward line. Jordan, so 47, yeah, disappointing from him. Sort of went back to that other role, low time on ground. Viney is coming back soon. So I've always said for a very long time now, you just keep this bloke up until the buys. Great on-field option, reliable scorer from week to week. Do you question yourself after 1 week? Those people that trade him out early in the season would be absolutely kicking themselves now. So it may be a mistake trading him out, but with that price now in his system, he will start to leak cash, I think. Look, he can still hit his break even, but the fact that his time on ground was really, really low, I am worried that he may be going back to more of an unfriendly SuperCoach role. So monitor him. He may be in my trade plans this week. Poulter, great on-field option, this fella. So an 80, yeah, well, what we'd love to see is that dream team type score or fantasy type score, because he did go over the ton in fantasy, which is a pretty well-known fact this week. So 80 in SuperCoach, look, you will take every day of the week, but you wish that was a little bit friendlier. I will talk a lot more about him in the stock market video, but wrap to have him, and if possible, an on-field option. Brayshaw, well, yeah, this week, yeah, had the groin issue. I hope that it was only a week. They talked about, what was the excuse, playing on a range of different surfaces. So I don't know how much that plays a part, but I just hope that the man is back. But I did cope pretty well without him, to be honest, with Poulter coming on for Brayshaw this week, taking his spot. So hopefully Brayshaw is back. Scotty, an 18. Yeah, well, how long is he going to be out for? I'm not too sure, but all of a sudden, Sutton, can't even speak at the moment, his break-even's going to go right back up. So you probably don't need to trade him out this week because he won't be playing. So you can probably hold him and then maybe look to trade him out the week after or the week before he gets back. A little bit disappointing because he did have a really low break even. There was still some cash to be made. I was planning on holding him at least up until his bye. Yeah, we don't really know what to do with Scotty now, but we'll see what happens with him when he comes back in and probably reassess. And then Fife, didn't need him as a loop this week. So we got now the rucks and the forwards. So look, we'll go pretty quickly through the rucks. You can probably see a name there in the forward line that you'll be really surprised about, because I have not been ranting and raving about getting this bloke in to your SuperCoach side this season, but I've gone and done it myself. But quickly with the rucks, Grundy, 138, absolutely fantastic. Most likely I'll have him as my backup captain this week. Gawn 124 at it was at quarter time, because I was speaking with Spills on the phone watching the game and just speaking at the same time, and we'd both gone Oliver at this stage, and at quarter time Oliver I think was on 24 points, so that actually puts into perspective what he did in the last 3 quarters. He averaged probably 60 points a quarter from there on in, and that's just a phenomenal effort. If you can get a 60-point quarter anytime, that's just a brilliant effort. Normally it's really hard to back that up the second quarter with another 60-odd type score. So absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, with Maxi, he was on about 50-something at quarter time, so he was doubling Oliver's score. So we were going, oh, what have we done here? The one week that we don't go with Gawn, we go with Oliver. Gawn's just going to go bananas. But yeah, obviously in the second half, we know what happened. Gawn really slowed down. Oliver just put the pedal to the metal, went bang, got past that 200 mark, but still with a 124, you can accept that from Gawn. He's been giving us those 117 type scores, which have been okay, but not for Gawn, not what we expect from Gawn or what we saw at the start of the season. So with the 124, it's okay, but if you look at that average now, Grundy is actually outscored him for the season, which is, yeah, I just noticed that then. That is unreal. So, yeah, 619,000. Amazing. Flynn, so he actually played with Mummy. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that may have even been for the first time. Let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong there, because I may be. But I think it may have been for the first time they played together. And 94, snagged a couple. Looked pretty solid as a forward as well, which is really handy for his long-term prospects, particularly if they do run with Mummy. So I think what's happened over the weekend has proved that they can probably play both Mummy and Flynn. And if Flynn can make it from week to week and not need a rest, yeah, I expect that he may even stay in. So great cash gen for him. Hopefully gets past 400k. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Would love that. And the forward line, Zeeble, 95. Still, you can't complain with a 95 type score, but that ceiling of Zeeble's, I think that has certainly lowered with my man Aaron Hall. That's also come into my side. But yeah, I think having Zeeble and Hall as a bit of a combo isn't actually a bad thing, because you know between those two blokes, that's where the points are. In the North backline, it spends a heap of time back there. There's a lot of sort of kick-arounds, a heap of kick-ins, and between Zeeble and Hall, they're basically going to take them all between them. So if you look at these blokes as a bit of a combo, one may go a little bit higher each week, and I think that man will be Hall basically most weeks. And then with the Zeeble, if he can chip in for a 95 to a 105, even, you know, a nice 130 from time to time, then that's still really nice, I think, for us. So Zeeble and Hall as a combo, really happy with. Hall, look, at 400k when I got him in, that's been a terrific pickup. He's already made 80k, gone 110, then 104, so 2 105 plus type scores, which is absolutely brilliant for what you pay for him, for a bloke in the forward line. Still with that durability, you're always going to be concerned week to week watching the bloke, but at the same time, he's got such a brilliant role. I think even at this Well, look, at 480, the risk factor has gone up significantly higher as compared to blokes like myself who got him in at 400k. That 80k does certainly make a difference, but I think you can still look to get him in if you trust his body. I think I can trust his role now for a good at least 100 average from here on out. So I still think he's a decent buy back there. If you rate his durability, or if you feel lucky more than rate his durability, then you can still bring Aaron Hall into your side, I think. Dane Zorko, so you're pretty surprised. There was a comment, and I forget who it was. I should give you a shout out, mate, but mention in the comments, it was either in the stock market, the last round review. Mate, you almost bag out Dane Zorko. He's your captain, what's going on? All in good fun, having a bit of a laugh about it. I said, look, mate, I love him as a player. As a captain, he's a great bloke, blah, 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 blah. Love the man. But as a SuperCoach selection, I'm just worried about A, B, C, D. Now, it got to the point where I basically needed to have a DPP player in this role. So Zorko was actually in my midfield at this stage. I played Dusty Ford, I think, from memory, which doesn't really matter at the end of the day, I know. But I was going to go maybe a Nick Hind type, but I thought, look, Zorko, his break-even's around the 60 mark. I do rate his short-term prospects, at least up until Neil gets into the side. So, look, he's a realistic option to look at. Mind you, I found out pretty late that Murphy wasn't going to be playing. And originally, remember, it was Jared Lyons and RCD. But all of a sudden, I can't go Jared Lyons because I don't have the money downgrading Mansell down to Lockie Jones. Because, remember, I was expecting to get Warner out as well, which would give him the money to get a Lyons type. So, I was sort of at the point where I'm like, well, I just don't like any forwards. I want someone with DPP. Nick Hind is maybe a selection I could look at. It came down to him or Zorko. At the end of the day, I went with someone with more runs on the board. I'm a Brisbane man, so I do not have a Brisbane player currently in the side. So I thought, look, I'll get a Brisbane player in, which I know is not what you should base your selections on. Do not base your trade-ins based on the team that you barrack for. But I just thought there are some good signs for Zorko. Even with Neil in the side, he did score pretty decently. He's been a lot more disciplined now, those free kicks. He's talked about working on things like his technique, because a lot of those are actually high tackles, if you look at the numbers. So, with Zorko, I think that some of his deficiencies early on the season have been corrected in some small ways, and he's got a good role in the short term anyway. Lockie Neal is starting to run at the moment, which is great signs for him, but still a little while away, I think. So at the end of the day, I didn't love it, but I thought he's the best out of the options that I can be selecting in that position. So 117 at the end of the day is absolutely fantastic. The second highest scorer for Brisbane behind Jared Lyons, who got like a 129, I think, from memory. So really I'm only 12 points behind, getting a forward in, saving a heap of cash, about 100k. Can't complain with that. And even someone like a Guthrie, unfortunately, he went 99, who was another bloke that I seriously would have been looking at. Pretty happy with the Zorko pick short term anyway. Impey, 90 plus, and you're pretty happy with him, to be quite honest. Still a keeper for mine. Warner, 59. I really want to get rid of him this week. I may... Look, he's not leaking a lot of money. Look, his break-even isn't still anywhere near the 100 mark, I don't think. It may be mid-70s from memory, which he may be able to achieve. Maybe a little bit more. I'll have to check that one out. But, certainly on the chopping block. But at the same time, he's not going to absolutely dip in price unless he gets a 40 or another 50 type score, and you probably can hold him up until the buys. So team dependent, see what you want to do there. R2 I end up using as my loophole option because I did put the emergency on James Rowe. We're out with this fella. I have had him on field for the last 3 weeks, so 80 odd, and then a 71. And look, Waterman's role, that didn't happen at the end of the day. Thought he was going to be playing as that inside mid-type player, but he was played up forward for the majority of the match, I think, from what I saw anyway. But 48 from him. I could decide whether or not to take Rowe's score, and I thought, look, 60 plus, I'm just going to lock it in if Rowe does that. And the fact that he got 11 points more, 71, it was a no-brainer for me. Just get him in. You always worry that R2 may have been the medical sub or emergency, so worst-case scenario, I would have just had to field Waterman, but when R2 wasn't named as a medical sub, I think it was Bailey Scott from memory, I thought, you little ripper, that's great. I can loop him now, take Waterman off the field, and take Rowe's score. So that really did help getting that nice rookie score on field. So I end up going Poulter. over Scott, which again was another really, really good selection. And in the back line with Lachie Jones, I had no choice and no option. So I basically did the best that I could this week. I got the highest scoring player in my side as my captain and got every rookie right for this week anyway. Some were forced, but the ones where I did have a bit of a decision, Poulter, Scott, Wartsman, Rowe, I made the correct decision in the end. So that really helped to get a pretty decent score. So that is basically the round review, guys. I will get the stock out, obviously, in the next day or two. Trade options for me this week. Now, I'm so unsure at the moment. Look, I may just sit in my hands and not trade. Jimmy Madden, I'm a Brisbane man. Now, don't ask me too many questions at the moment because I really need to think carefully about Madden before I give any advice. But I will say that I think that he may be an option. He's someone that we should be thinking about, definitely. How seriously should we be thinking about him? How good is his job security? I will save that more for the stock market video. But he's certainly a realistic trade-on option this week for us. So, look, what I'll do is I'll play around with something very, very quickly just to show you what I could do, just as a quick example. So you go Warner out, and again, this is extremely risky. So this leaves my forward line, I don't even know what the word is. It's a big risk with who I've got my forward line at the moment. And again, this is just a personal situation. Your forward line may be different. You may be a little bit stronger than I am down there at the moment. But what I could do is out Warner, then you go in Jimmy Madden. So 123, 900. And then what I could do is get James Jordan out of the side, which again, I'm not too sure about at this stage. And I could get, when I say any of the big forwards, I can't get the Bond, Jared Lyons. So I can't get those two blokes. And to be quite honest, they're the two blokes that I would like to get in if I could. But I think I'm not going to go with the pod that I was thinking of. Maybe after the first buy, I'll go with him. So I won't sort of give that away at this stage. But Jack Macrae is really the obvious solution, I think. What is he in? About 49% of sides. 47%. So he rounded up to 48% of sides. He's killed me not having him this year. And the previous week's it was 2 to 3 weeks before this week, before his big 140 odd type score, we did not see the best of Jack Macrae, and he was getting those lower type hundreds. So he has lost a little bit of cash. He was looking to get close to the 700 mark in the form that he was in. So he's probably the most logical option, I think. Only 7k in the bank, but getting Jack Macrae on field is just such a massive upgrade, isn't it? So I'll complete that trade for now. But again, I'm not recommending this to everyone. I'm just showing what I could do as an example, getting Warner and Jordan out of your side. Look, you could play around with getting Scott out of your side. That's certainly an option because at least these other two blokes are playing. But if I was to do that, look, I'm in the position at the moment where I basically need to get a big midfielder in, and pairing up Scott out with either of Warner or Jordan means that I've got around the mid 500 mark, and there's just no one around that price range that I want to get into my side. I want to finish with the big dogs now, and I'm planning around that. So look, the midfield now would be looking great. You know, you get Poulter out there. Look, the frustrating thing as well with this setup is that I think Poulter's going to be a really reliable on-field option, and I can't get him up there because these four blokes here just don't have DPP, and there have been stages during the year where I've had 2 rookies with DPP up there, but then you swap and trade around, and that's, hurting me at this stage. So if I do get Madden into the side, then I'm relying, I can rely on Jimmy Rowe, for sure. So you get Rowe in there, so you've got really no issues with these sort of blokes here, with your F sort of 1 to F5, but then I'm running with Madden, R2D2, and the Waterman, so that's a little bit scary, and it's a little bit of a risk. Look, short term, if Madden gets named, Waterman gets named again, then you may be a little bit more confident, at least getting a couple of weeks out of it, and then when the buyers come around, you can switch around your Scotts and your Poulters and maybe get an R2 or Waterman out. So there are things that you can also do, and again, I've got Dusty sitting up there in the midfield who needs to come forward, so there are certainly things that I can do. So if it works short term, I may take the risk, just to get someone like a Jack McRae into my side. But then again, I need to check my buy structure. And one thing I will look to do in the stock market this video, just while I'm thinking about it, is maybe not focus on too many of those irrelevant players that we know we're not going to select at this stage. And maybe even do a bit of a color code system instead. Spend a little bit of extra time doing that. So basically anyone with around 12 buy will be in green, for example, the names in green, 13 in blue, and maybe 14 in red. We'll do something like that, just so when you're looking at your trade-ins this week, looking at the stock market, you can sort of see without having to look back at, which team has what buy, just by looking at the color code. So I'll look to do that this week in the stocky. So look, I suppose that's it for now, guys. That's how the team's looking. Let me know how you went this week. I'm sure there would be some big scores in this community, because some of us do have similar type players. I do know that there's a few, I won't even say blokes, there's a lovely lady, Emily, SuperCoach Mama. Shout out to you. I don't know if you watch the channel at all, but we know we follow each other on Twitter. Congratulations. I think you are now in the top 10. I am in a league with you. I forget which league it is, but you went 2,500 plus this week. Congratulations. And Arthur, I think you're in the $60 cash league, mate. You went 24.99. One more point, mate, and you would have hit 2,500. So congrats on that, bud. And I know there are some really great scores out there as well. And remember, if you didn't have the best week this week, there is always another week. Remember, I was ranked, I think, around the 2K mark from memory just a few weeks ago. And hopefully, a few good decisions, a bit of luck's gone my way, and now inside the top 700. So don't get too down on yourself. Do not lose hope if you didn't have the best week. I've said it many times. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. The buys are coming up. If you're well set up for those, you can really shoot up the ranks. If you've got some sneaky moves in place, that can also help you as well. They are always risky, those type of moves in the buys, I know. But there are a number of things that you can do to really improve your rank, particularly over the next 5 weeks. And as I said, there is hope and light at the end of the tunnel. So I'll leave you there, guys. Hope that your trades are coming in place. Look out for the stock market video in the next couple of days, and I'll speak to you then. Take care. Catch you soon. Bye.